Good morning, sir. Guest house, sir. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning, sir.
Yeah, madam, good morning.
Sir, our guest is also here, Dr. Lisa Shapi, ma'am from Kansas State University, US, and also Registrar Madam Sameen Fatima, madam is connected now.
Okay.
We are waiting for the moderator to start the program.
A trailblazing edifice of technical education in Telangana, supported by world-class infrastructure, committed to create future-ready and industry-fit engineering minds. Anurag Group of
A very good morning to one and all. This is Dr. Lakshmi Ramana, professor from the Department of English. Take the privilege to invite another power-packed session on problems and prospects of online language education. The pandemic has significantly disrupted the higher education sector as well, which is a critical determinant of a country's economic future. It has transformed the age-old chalk and talk teaching model. Instead, e-learning solutions are advised to adopt. Now, to talk on these, we have the resource person from Miss Lisa Shapi from Kansas State University, and she is going to give her insights. Before starting that session, I would like to invite Dr. Anantalakshmi Madam, the head Department of English, to share some of her thoughts on the topic of today. Over to you, Madam.
Good morning, all of you. Hope all of you are doing well. This is the time we are entering early morning, fresh in the morning into the third session of the day of the international webinar on problems and prospects of the online language teaching. Then, at the outset, all of us know we are comfortable with even the physical way of assessment, evaluation and all, where the teacher takes the red pen to round off and to correct, to underline and all these things. Today's afternoon session will be dealing with the assessment, how we can do in online mode, because we have traveled a long way in the conventional mode of teaching, and now the teaching is rather than the knowledge driven, it is more technology driven. We have to adapt the technology, understand the technology, and create the awareness about the technology to deal with today's techno savvy engineers and other streams of students. So I request you all to look forward for a great enlightening session. And in the morning, Dr. Lisa Shafi will be handling with the online education and how to deal with, and she will be giving us very useful and very productive inputs to deal with all the kinds of perspectives. Thank you all.
Now we are fortunate to have Registrar Anurag University with us, Professor Sada Sameen Fatima Madam. She did her post-graduation from University of Massachusetts, USA, and received her doctorate in computer science and engineering from Osmania University, Hyderabad. She got 37 years of rich teaching, research, and administrative experience. She has published more than 40 research papers in international and national journals, guided 6 students in obtaining doctoral degrees in the areas of information retrieval systems, artificial intelligence, machine learning, text mining, and NLP. Her research interests include information retrieval systems, artificial intelligence, machine learning, text mixing. Her teaching interests too include the same. Her papers have been published in a national and international journals. She has been awarded with Meritorious Teacher Award in the year 2017 on Teachers' Day by the Government of Telangana, and received the Inspiring Teachers Award from the Teachers Academy of Andhra Pradesh in 2009. We are fortunate to have you with us, Madam. Please, over to you.
Thank you, Dr. Anantha Lakshmi. A very good morning to all the 21st century teachers on behalf of Anurag University. I think it's a pleasure for me to be a part of this, and I thank the organizers for giving me a slot in this workshop. I think where I'm starting, a story is coming to my mind. The story of the thirsty crow, which we all heard as a child. There was a crow, and he was very, very thirsty. He flew around looking for water everywhere. And then he saw a jug of water. He wanted to drink some water. But unfortunately for him, the water level was too low in the jug. The crows are supposedly considered quite intelligent. I believe they have the intelligence of a 7-year-old. The crow, what he did was, he wanted to just turn over the jug or break the jug, but none of these things worked. The crow thought for some more time, and he got a brilliant idea. He thought of putting some pebbles in the water, and we know basic physics. You put some pebbles, and the water level rises. The crow was struck with the same idea. The crow picked up some pebbles and threw it into the jug, one by one. As the pebbles were added to the water level started rising. And then finally the water reached the mouth of the crow, the beak of the crow, and the crow could drink water and get satisfied. I see an analogy here to today's situation. we are all having the water with us. We are all equipped with the knowledge in our respective domains. For you, it is English. For me, it is computer science. We have done MSc, MA, MTech, PhDs. So we have the background knowledge. We've been teaching for quite some time. Nevertheless, online teaching is another learning process. I think the water is there, but we have to raise the level of the water. Now, there are two things that are very important for a teacher. The teacher should be technically correct as well as socially correct, because we are interacting with students. So if we just have the knowledge and we cannot communicate properly and we don't conduct ourselves socially properly, even then there's a problem. Let me tell you one more thing. While I was a student at UMass Amherst, I had answered an exam. I wrote an answer, but I did not get a good grade on that answer. I was thinking what happened. I went to the professor and I said, what is this grade? Because I think I did the question, I wrote the right answer. I don't understand why my points were taken away. The professor was so smart. Without hurting me, the professor said, if I were you, I would have answered this question this way, and she gave me the right answer. So she never said that you were wrong. She never said, how could you question me? But she used a very nice strategy. She gave me the right answer, and she said, if she were there in my place, she would have answered the question in this particular way. So I think we teachers, we have to possess good knowledge, and we should also be socially correct. That means the way we conduct ourselves, the way we engage our students, the way we talk to them, the way we communicate with them are also very important parameters in imparting education. So the water level is there with us, but we need the stones to raise the level of the water. Now, when we are doing online teaching, again, it's a new learning process. We've been doing this for quite some time here and there, but not like a regular thing, not like a complete course. We maybe gave a talk somewhere, it was online, but like, a complete course, offering a complete course through online mode is really a challenge. We know that today's students, they have so many avocations. Their attention spans are very small. Even we in our classrooms, we never were able to concentrate the whole 1 hour or 45 minutes class. Our minds kept moving from one topic to another topic while the professor spoke. The students of today have even more smaller attention spans. If you see online courses, you should not be engaging students more than 15 minutes, I could say, for them to be attentive to you and to listen to you. Give them a break again. Also, it's not necessary that this should be synchronized. So you record your lectures, be it audio or video, and you make it available to the student. And the student, at their own time and pace, can go through your video and go through your audio lectures, whatever you prefer to give. Because, right now in the morning, it's very nice for some of us to get up and come and attend this workshop. But kids of today, they may not feel so. They may feel that they want to look at this lecture a little later after maybe a breakfast and after doing a few things. So maybe 10 o'clock is a good time for them. So I think if we make these lectures available to them, they could view it offline and they could still learn the material. So we are not forcing things on them. It's all student-centric. We are keeping the student in mind. So the teacher thinks that the teacher knows everything. And of course, we know, so we think so. That's not wrong. Nevertheless, we have to put ourselves in the shoes of our students. So the student is in a different age group, a different thought process, going through several things at his age or her age. And today there are so many other avocations for that little child. So I think these little stones that we keep adding will make a difference in our teaching, I feel. Now today there are newer tools which are coming up. We have this Zoom meeting that we are having here. We are now all getting accustomed to using Zoom. It's becoming the order of the day and very easy to use, not very difficult. So we have picked this up so very quickly. Now we should also be prepared to give some lecture material to the students so that before the class even commences, we should be giving them some background material to prepare, to look at it and come to the class. That way they will be better prepared to listen to you and be more attentive probably. So a teacher has a little more hard work to do. So one more stone you have to add, you have to give them, you have to plan your course properly, you have to give them material, handwritten, printed material, and they have to go through this before they come to your class. That could position them in a better way to listen to your lecture and to imbibe things. Now, once you do all this, you also feel that you have to assess them. How do you assess them? Do you assess them towards the end of the course? Certainly not. Do you test them after every short module that you go through? Maybe a 15-minute module, and then you have a self-test. So the child follows for the 15 minutes and is happy answering your questions, also is very enthusiastic about what he or she has learned, and is capable of giving you the right answers. Another thing, you also need this, that the student interact with you. Normally I'm attending a lot of Zoom meetings and Zoom classes, and I find that the speaker first says, switch off your mics. There's a lot of disturbance and all of you have to put your mics off. And all the students put off their mics. And in between, the teacher forgets that the teacher has asked the student to switch off the mic. And then says, I'm not getting any response. They pose a question and they expect that the students give some response. And they say, I don't hear you. I don't see whether you're following me or not. I've asked you a question. Then they realize, they say, okay, please unmute yourself. So we are still not used to that. We feel that we're in a classroom, you're talking to the student, we're not seeing the student though. So some things are there which we have to tune ourselves. We have to present ourselves properly. We have to learn a few tools. The learning management systems are there. We have to equip ourselves with LMS. We have to equip ourselves with these platforms, the video platforms like Zoom or whichever one you would like to use. There's also very interesting stuff that I was listening to yesterday. I think Patricia was the speaker, and Patricia was talking about readability skills. So she was talking about technical writing, and she said that you have to assess the technical writing. And sometimes if the professor tells the student that your technical writing is not up to the mark, the student is not accepting it. So sometimes they bring in the tool and they say, look, this is the readability score that you got. And this is how we measure your readability. Now, similarly, we have to assess the performance when we are teaching online. We have to take feedback from the students. We have to keep on assessing ourselves. We have to go on relearning how to teach properly. Every day is a learning for a teacher. A teacher is a learner all his life or all her life. So there is nothing wrong in learning. In fact, it is sometimes very exciting to learn. I think this is the order of the day because of COVID-19. But even before COVID, most universities had switched to online blended mode of learning, online plus offline. But now, because of the special situation of COVID-19, we're all forced kind of to resort to online teaching. And many universities have declared this whole year to be online. I think we teachers know what are the required stones we need to put in, and this workshop is enabling you to pick up those required stones to raise the level of the water so that the students can reach the water level and learn, and you can impart better, and the entire learning process will be really, really useful to the student. And many people will benefit because this is becoming global, and from any corner of the world, anywhere, anytime, education, which is the birthright of everybody, will be made available. I think with this, I would like to thank the organizers for giving me this slot once again. And I wish you all the best. God bless you.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you very much.
Thank you, madam.
My pleasure.
We are very fortunate to have you with us. And in spite of your busy schedule, our registrar madam has found time to grace the occasion. My heartfelt thanks to madam for her valuable words. Thank you very much for your interesting and thought-provoking address. Now, Dr. Vijay Kumar, sir, who is the Dean Research and Development of Anurag University, is with us. I would like to invite him to address the session. Before that, I would like to introduce Professor Vijay Kumar, Dean Research and Development, to the audience. He received integrated MS Engineering in CSE from USSR and his PhD in Computer Science from JNTUH. He is nominated as Executive Council Member for Dr. B.R. Ambedkar University, Srikakulam, Andhra Pradesh by the Government of Andhra Pradesh. He served as Director of Admissions, Professor and Chairman BOS for more than 1 year at Rayalaseema University. He guided 42 research scholars for PhD in Computer Science and Engineering and published more than 130 research articles in international journals. He has received Distinguished Professor Award from CSI, Leading Scientists of the World in 2009 by the International Biographical Centre, Cambridge, England, Best Researcher Award and Best Teacher Award by JNTU Kakinada. He has also received prestigious gold-plated silver medal award from the Honorable Governor of AP on 27th November 2012 for his services in Red Cross. Thank you very much for joining with us, sir. Over to you to address the gathering.
Kindly unmute your mic, sir. You're not audible. Kindly unmute your mic, sir.
Yeah, now it's audible.
You are audible, sir. Please go ahead, sir. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you, madam. Thank you, Srinivas. And anyway, I'm happy to participate in the international webinar on problems and prospects of online language teaching. So yesterday, in fact, I am thrilled by hearing yesterday's 2 sessions on YouTube. I could not hear online because I was busy with some other meetings. In this regard, first of all, I would like to appreciate Dr. Anantalakshmi and her team of English department of Anurag University for choosing such an interesting topic, which is highly relevant today's pandemic year. I can call it as a pandemic year. We never expected that. It's really going like this. And the Department of English playing a vital role in improving the communication skills among the students of Anurag University. And I would like to say here, 40 to 50% of our students, mostly coming from rural background, they have got sound knowledge in pure sciences like mathematics, physics, and chemistry, but they are lacking, or otherwise I can say they are having poor communication skills. The Department of English, I would like to note here again, the Department of English, working hard and working relentlessly to innovate and also develop and design various communication skills labs and also various open electives to improve the communication skills among the students. Some of the labs they have designed and innovated, I would like to note here, are the soft skills for success lab, language life skills lab, advanced communication skills lab, and technical and business communication skills is an open elective, English for professionals for open elective, and also so many electives. Irrespective of this, the Department of English continuously conducting mock interviews for the sake of students, especially for the sake of placements. And also they are asking the students to undergo mini projects. Usually mini projects will be, designed and will be asked by the engineering departments. But here in our university, I am proud to say that the Department of English is asking students to undergo mini projects in which the students will be going to various industries and they'll be doing the process from step 1 to step n, and they'll be submitting it how the process is going on in the industry as a mini project, so that their technical communication skills will be improved. So I would like to appreciate in this regard, and I would like to appreciate and thank the management, especially Dr. Palla Rajeshwareddy is the great visionary and his team, and also administration team of the Anurag University for sponsoring generously to develop these communication skills labs and also advising the students to develop more and more of communication skills. And the students are benefited by this, and their placements are already, the placements are already improved and they are going to be improved. And coming to the today's topic, my experience as guiding maybe around 40 to 42 research scholars for their PhD, most of my students are good in developing or designing an experiment. But whenever I ask them to write an abstract of 200 words or maybe a conclusion of 100 words, they are performing very poor. Though they have done experiment, they have worked hard on that experiment for 6 months, otherwise 3 to 6 months, but they are unable to write an abstract because of their poor technical communication skills, technical writing skills, I can say. So this really making them designing an experiment, they take 6 months, but writing a paper, they are taking more than 6 months. You see here, for writing a paper, they should take 1 month after conducting the entire experiment, after going to the literature survey and everything, but they are taking sometimes 4 months in writing a paper. After publishing 4 to 6 papers, they are taking 1 year for writing the thesis, because again, they are facing the problem of what? Technical communication skills. Anyway, as our registrar madam said, that a teacher is always a student, and especially this year, many people have thought it is going to be a 0 semester. And I can say as a teacher, most of the teachers, it is difficult for them to adopt online teaching or blended mode of teaching suddenly, because teachers are good in teaching usually in India and most of the countries via blackboard only, but it is difficult for them to adopt this online mode suddenly. But I can say that we, the community of teachers, are always students. Now this is the time we should adopt these kinds of modes. And I would like to say here, and I would like to mention here, Dr. Srinivas Rao and Lakshmi Ramana madam, who has taken a lot of pains in organizing this webinar. Finally, I would like to thank all the organizers and the Department of English for giving this opportunity. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir, for your very interesting and thought-provoking address. The importance of communication skills really to be taken care of by the universities. As you mentioned clearly, writing technical reports is really a challenge for many professional students. And I think all our participants have taken a note of our registrar madams and your suggestions, and will be discussing within their organizations the action to be initiated at their level. Thank you very much for gracing the occasion. Thank you.
Thank you.
Now, it's the time to introduce our resource person, Ms. Lisa Shapi, who is the Library Director and Instrumental Designer for Kansas State University Polytechnic. Ms. Shapi received her Master of Library Science and MS in Instructional Technology and Design from Emporia State University. She has presented regionally, nationally, and internationally on faculty development, distance education, and instructional technology. Ms. Shapi is responsible for creating online teaching training as well as faculty technology training on the Kansas State Polytechnic campus. Today, in the pandemic situation, many institutions closing their doors indefinitely, teachers across the country have had to adapt and implement remote learning strategies. While remote learning isn't a perfect substitute for in-class instruction, there are lots of ways to keep students engaged while they are learning from home. The next 1 hour will be a power-packed session. Ms. Lisa is going to share her inputs, and here her address is to the faculty, how to support students through online education and what are the practices the American universities are taking through. And this session is really going to be informative. Over to you, Ms. Shapi.
Thank you very much. Thank you so much for having me today. I'm very excited to speak to you. Let me share my presentation. Okay. So my name is Lisa Shapi, and I work at Kansas State University Polytechnic, which is in Kansas in the United States. And although my title is library director, I'm also the campus instructional designer. So it is my job, as she said, to train faculty to teach online and how to use different technologies. So today I'm going to take you through how we prepare our faculty to teach online, and hopefully you can find some good tools that you can use to help you as well. As I said, we are in Salina, Kansas, and we are almost right in the middle of the country. So we're very landlocked here at K-State Polytechnic. And as I said, it's my job to train faculty to teach online. On my campus about 8 years ago, I created a course to teach faculty the best practices for teaching online. At the time I created that, Kansas State University as a whole had no training for online faculty. They expected faculty to teach online, but didn't offer training. So I created a program, and on our campus, at first it was voluntary, and then it became required for anyone who wanted to teach online. And then it became necessary for any new faculty that came to our campus. The thinking was that even if they're not going to teach online right away, they'd be trained and ready to go if we needed them to. Also, as we go through the course, you'll see that a lot of this would help in your face-to-face course as well. So it helps them with that situation as well. And this ended up being a really good thing, because when we did have to switch to all online in March in the spring semester, we had a pretty educated faculty base. A lot of our faculty had already been through the training and had done a little teaching online. So while we had a few to bring along, we were really fortunate that we had this training program. With the pandemic, however, though, this course did go through some changes, and I ended up working with our main campus, the Manhattan campus, and we worked together to create a course that could be used for the entire university, not just our campus, so that in this time of great stress for students and faculty, we could have a consistent message. And so what we created, we called the Online Course Design Institute. Now, many universities in the United States created courses like this. So this was kind of the standard for how our universities handled this pandemic and getting our faculty prepared to teach online. So the OCDI consisted of 5 modules, as you can see, a module a week. and they all focus on some element of online teaching. So the first was fundamentals of online teaching and learning. Then we had tools for online teaching and learning, student success, assessment, and then something that was unique to our campus and not used throughout the entire university was the hybrid teaching and learning. And I decided to add this module on because I knew that our fall semester was more than likely going to include some sort of hybrid or blended learning. Those two terms are used interchangeably. So I wanted to make sure faculty at least had an introduction to that type of teaching so that we could be prepared for whatever came at us in the fall. So I'm going to take you through the modules and just go over the main points, not the whole class, of what we discussed to give you an idea of how we prepared them to create quality online courses for students. So the first module was fundamentals of online teaching and learning. And the main things that we did in that module was to review different quality course checklists, talk about the difference between a face-to-face syllabus and an online syllabus, and go over course goals and learning objectives. So quality checklists. Many universities or different organizations have quality checklists, things that faculty can look at and check their course against and see if it meets what they've deemed to be a quality course. And I just wanted to show, hopefully it'll let me show it. Let's see here. I'm gonna stop share for a moment. Okay, this should let me see it. So the first one, and please tell me if you do not see a course design review checklist right now. I'm not hearing anything, so I'm assuming we're seeing it. So this is Online Learning Consortium. They are a quality course organization. And I just wanted to show how their course review looks because many of them look the same. And basically it's a rubric, but it's a long rubric. You can see it has 6 different sections and multiple different criteria. And for a faculty new to teaching online, this can be overwhelming because it's a lot of different information that they have to look at. So there are a few more, and if you have the slides to my presentation, you'll have links to them. Illinois has their own, and then California State University creates one as well. And they're all kind of long and unwieldy. And so what I did for our campus was I created our own checklist because, well, I wanted to ensure that faculty had certain elements of quality online courses so that we could have student satisfaction and good persistence through online courses. I didn't want it to be overwhelming. And so for our design, our course design checklist, I just lost my mouse. Try that again. You can see it's just a real simple 3-page checklist. Some of the things are bolded, some of them are not. The difference is that the bolded are the things that I, as the instructional designer, would go through and check with them. Our faculty, if they do choose to teach online, if they are contractually obligated to, they go through a course checklist with the instructional designer. So I sit down with them when their course is done, and we look at this checklist and we make sure that these elements are there. And the reason I have some of the unbolded, or these are things that I don't look at. These are things for them to think about because we always have to remember as instructional designers, faculty are subject matter experts. They know their content and they are fantastic at it. So while we can help them with the organization of a course and the elements that are important to make it quality and helpful to students, we always want to ensure that we're not interfering with their content and how they wish to teach their course. And this checklist helps to achieve that goal. Next, we talk about online course syllabus. There's some elements that you might put in an online course syllabus or even a hybrid syllabus that you wouldn't put in your face-to-face. These are things that are important to communicate to students so they know exactly what to expect. Things that go in an online course syllabus that aren't in face-to-face are things like the technology needed to complete the course. We assume that everyone has webcams and microphones, but they may not. And so if it's an expectation that you may have a Zoom check-in, nothing required, but maybe something where you check in with the course that is synchronous, You want to make sure they understand that there's an expectation they have those things. Or if you're teaching an upper level programming class, they need to make sure they have certain technology on their computer to take that course from you online. Also, technology skills need to complete the course. Although right now we're in a time where everyone has to learn online, whether they want to or not, because of the pandemic, sometimes we need to make sure that students have those basic skills to take an online course. Can they attach that assignment to a Dropbox in the learning management system? Simple things like that, just to ensure that they know what's expected of them. Also, the best way to contact you and what hours you're available. When we're on campus, you have set office hours. They might see you walking through the hall and they see you in class every other day. So it's important for them to know how you prefer to communicate with them. Would you prefer email? Would you prefer messages in the learning management system? And also what hours you're available. We all have things going on, so we're not on there 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So maybe just set some parameters for when you'll be available. Also, your grading timeline and expectations. How long will it take you to grade those assignments? They like to know when those grades will be coming to them. That's very important to them. And then finally is an etiquette statement. Sometimes when we get behind keyboards, we are maybe not as kind to others as we are when we are face-to-face with them. And so an etiquette statement can kind of set the rules for how we need to be respectful with each other online when we're doing discussions or emailing or talking. So it's not just the relationship between you and the student, but also ensuring that the students are respectful to each other. And a good etiquette statement can help with that process. So things that we have them do is we do have a graded assignment and a graded discussion board for every module in the course. The reason for this is one of the best ways to become a good online instructor is to take an online course. Because until you've gone through that process from the student side, it's harder to be as empathetic as you are after you've taken it. Once you know what it's like to have to do a discussion board, to submit an assignment, or have technology go wrong for you, you sometimes can't put yourself in their shoes. And so that kind of gives you an idea of what they're going through, and it allows you to organize your class a little better if you've been through that. So again, if you guys get the slides, which I think that you do, you'll have links to all of these worksheets. So I'm just going to do a quick look at them so that you can look at them at your own time. But one of the first things we do is just give them this tool. It's not graded, but it is guiding questions for writing course goals. Very simple worksheet. It's just something to get them to start thinking about their course. Now, most people already have a course that they're adjusting to online, so they have this, right? This isn't new for them, but we do have some faculty who are new and they need this guidance. So we try to create this course for people who are starting at ground zero to those who might be a little more advanced. So these things may be easier for them, but it gets them thinking about what do you want to provide for your students? What should they know or care about if they take your course? What are the general education curriculum goals? Basic things to get you started on organizing your course. And then the graded assignment is, again, real simple worksheet. But basically, we just ask them, write down the course description. That's what tells the student what they're going to learn from that course, right? And then what are the objectives, the course level learning objectives, and what unit, module, or weekly, however you're organizing your course, is going to lead them there. And then we ask them to list it out into a table below. Just an idea of how they're going to do it. The thinking behind this and why they are kind of simple worksheets is, one, faculty know their content. They know how to teach generally. We're just trying to get them to lay out that online class because it's much easier if you're not used to the technology, if you're not used to that learning management system, if you haven't taught online all that much, to get that class organized on paper or on your computer screen on a Word document and have it ready to go in the organization you want, and then go into the learning management system and start laying it out. Because then you're just dealing with technology issues there. You're not dealing with, how am I going to organize this? Where do I want this assignment? You've already laid that out because you've organized your course. So it can make for a smoother transition and make it a lot less frustrating for you if that's not a skill set of yours. So, oh, I went the wrong way. that takes us right into the second module, which we call Tools for Online Teaching and Learning. And we do talk about the tools that our university has available for our faculty. We have Zoom. I think I heard that you use Blackboard. Our LMS is Canvas. And then we have different things that we use for video storage and video creation. So we teach them that and give them tutorials. We also talk about LMS, or Learning Management System, course organization, kind of best practices for how to lay out your course. One of the goals on our campus, which is hard to do, is to create a standardized online course layout so that when a student goes into the course, the information in one class is in the same place in another. This leads to higher student satisfaction. It's proven that if you have a well-organized course, and especially if your university can keep things consistent, higher student satisfaction, higher student persistence. They're not going to get into your courses and give up because they're frustrated because they can't find things. So those are important things to think about when you're creating your course, which is the reasoning behind talking about course organization and that quality checklist. So those are things we talk about in this module. And so the big thing we talk about is course mapping, which is kind of just course organization, really. So what is course mapping? Course mapping is a visual overview of all the components of your online course. Each module is broken down into outcomes, activities, and assessments. This mapping, again, makes it much easier when you're ready to put that class into the learning management system because you've already organized your class. We offer some different tools and a graded assignment to help them with course mapping. We also did a live panel with course mapping. So we had one instructional designer and one faculty, teaching faculty, kind of demonstrate how this would work to faculty so they could see how course mapping could help them as they create their course. And once they'd attended that, we did have some tools and a graded assignment for them. So, oh, I keep going back. The course skeleton table worksheet. Again, you're seeing very simple worksheets, but again, we're just trying to get them to think through and organize where they could lay out their course, the weeks that they'll have it, and what they'll be doing to map it out. Also, there's the course planning worksheet, a little more in depth in that we want them to take the first 4 weeks of their course. What are they going to teach those weeks? What are their learning outcomes and objectives? What are the reading resources and instructor presentation content? Assignment due dates, assignments, and learning activities. So these are the things we ask them to do in this module. And as you can see, some of the information from the past worksheets are on these worksheets, right? We're building up that knowledge. We're scaffolding the content so that at the end, they can have a full-fledged course through these worksheets. The next is student success in online teaching and learning. And the main things that we talk about in this particular module is managing online discussion boards, creating instructor presence in an online course. And we also had a live panel with students where students were asked questions about what they prefer and what they like in online courses, and faculty attended and listened to the answers, much like we're doing here today. One of the things we spoke about discussion boards, first of all, is laying out your expectations. So one of the things we do for our faculty when they are graded on discussion boards, because this is a graded discussion board for them, is we have a rubric where we tell them what's going to get them points and what isn't. Because it's important for students to know that just saying I agree isn't going to get them points. That's great that you agree. Why do you agree? Why do you think your classmate is correct? So it's important to let them know what the expectation is when you're going to use discussion boards, because they're fantastic for online courses. They're so helpful for the students who maybe didn't speak up a lot in face-to-face courses because they're a little more anxious and nervous. And discussion board, you can get really well thought out answers from these students, and they can be really great. We also talk about the instructor presence on a discussion board. So you can't answer every single student unless you're teaching really small classes. Maybe you can, but also you don't want to be so involved that you're stopping their discussion. You want them to discuss and really come up with their ideas. And sometimes if an instructor is too involved, it can stop that because they might be nervous or anxious thinking what you're thinking about their post because you're in there so much as that's how they might perceive it. So it's important to prompt them and keep the discussion going if you need to, but if they're going on their own and really discussing it the way you want, then minimal intervention is a good deal. But don't set it and forget it. You want to be involved, but not so much that we're stopping their conversation. Another big thing that's so important to students is instructor presence. They want to know that you're there, that you care, and that you are involved in their learning. In fact, the assignment for this particular module is an introduction video. So we ask the faculty to create a 2 to 5 minute short, because as it was said earlier, we can't have really long videos for students online. They're not going to watch them. They're going to lose interest. So an introduction video to themselves that they can then use in their online course. We then talk about a communication plan. And this is going to kind of harken back to when we talked about the online syllabus and what's different between an online syllabus and a face-to-face syllabus. But important is establishing your office hours. Even in an online class, you can have office hours. We had some faculty this last semester use Zoom for office hours. So they would post the link and they would say, I will be online 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. Monday through Thursday. And students could come and go just as they would in their regular office. They did use the waiting room option so that, you know, students wouldn't hear any possibly personal information. But it worked out really well. Students used it. They liked being able to check in, especially those that had never taught online before. So those are things that you can do to help with instructor presence and keep that communication going. Another thing is to communicate how often you'll be checking the course. You know, most of us probably check it multiple times a day, but maybe you're just a once every 24 hours person, which is fine. You just need to communicate that to them. Also, it's okay if you are one of those people that don't want to teach evenings and weekends, but you need to, or not teach, but be available evenings or weekends. But you should communicate to your students that that's going to be the case, and to tell them how to handle their communications during this time. I would also say for higher student satisfaction, if you're not going to be available on a Saturday or a Sunday, don't make an assignment due on a Saturday or Sunday. While they shouldn't wait to the last minute, they do. And it can be very frustrating if you have a question and that's a day that your instructor's not available. So those are things to think about as you prepare a course for your students. And also, as we talked about before with the syllabus, communicate your plan to complete grading and give feedback. How long is it going to take you? And if you're going to be delayed, if you won't meet that deadline, that is completely fine. You just need to communicate with them. That's important for them to know what to expect and what's coming. Again, I talked about how we had a student panel. And one of the things that we were really surprised about was that they really enjoyed having some opportunity. Again, it's hard to make it required, but they enjoyed having some opportunity to have a little bit of synchronous interaction with their classmates and their instructor. They wanted the opportunity to see their classmates, interact with them, because it made them feel like more of a class and more of a community, and they didn't feel so on their own. They also really enjoyed the ability to see and speak to their instructor. So that goes back to the possibility of having virtual office hours. They know you're there and they can talk to you, and it makes them feel more confident. But this is information to take with a grain of salt, because I do think that a majority of your students are going to want to kind of just be in the background, do their work on their own and not interact in this way. Because I think that a student that wants to kind of be in the background, they're not going to volunteer to be on a student panel. So you have to think about that as well. But it was good to know that they like this. And I think even for those students that don't want a lot of interaction, even one check-in in the beginning at least lets them see what's going on and helps them to feel a part of something too. And it can lead to higher student satisfaction. The fourth module was assessment and online teaching and learning. We talked about assessment plans and also tips for online exams. So let's look at that. So we had the module tool and assignment like we had in all the modules, and it's very similar. We did the guiding questions checklist for overall online courses. Again, simple worksheet with questions, and then a checklist on if their assessment had these things like grading rubrics Is it helping to develop my students' understanding of course content? Questions like that. And then the actual graded assignment was much like we've had before, questions, and then a simple, what's your assessment? How are you assessing it? Are you doing quizzes, paper, demonstration? What will you be doing? So again, we're helping them organize and lay out that class before they get into the LMS. Tips for online exams. At our university, we're trying to get away from proctoring exams. We do have a flight program, which means we have some tests that it's federally mandated that they be proctored. So that's always going to be the case. But for other classes, we don't. And the reason is that, especially because of the pandemic, more universities are online, more universities are requiring proctoring. So the bandwidth of these vendors is getting pushed to its limit, and it's getting harder. We have testing centers that are closed or testing centers with limited capacity, some people that aren't doing proctoring. So it's very difficult for students to even find that option. There is at-home proctoring, but even that can cause a lot of technology issues for students, which goes to the first point, that exams in general are anxiety inducing. But for students who didn't choose to learn online and are now suddenly learning everything online, that anxiety is probably doubled. So anything we can do to make those exams, while we want to assess and measure that they're learning, we also want to make sure that we're not causing undue stress on these students. And sometimes proctoring can do that. But there are some ways, while we can't stop cheating completely, we can make it harder for them to collaborate or cheat on exams, which is the reason we have faculty that do proctoring. So these things can help. So one of the things you can do is schedule the online exam to open and close at a specific time. Most learning management systems give you the option to have a test open and close at a specific time. If you know that they're all going to be taking a class at this time, it's a little harder for one student to take it, get the answers, and give them to the next one. It also can be helpful for you because you can make sure you're available during that time if they have any technology issues or have any questions. If the exam has multiple choice answers, scramble the answers. Again, most learning management systems will allow you to scramble answers. So even though they may have the same question, the answers wouldn't be in the same order. The only caveat to that is don't use all of the above as one of your answers, because if they mix around at some point, all of the above isn't the correct answer. So things to think about. More exam tips, using question pools. Most learning management systems will allow you to have question pools. And if you create an exam from a question pool, you can choose to have those questions randomized. So even if they're trying to collaborate on a test, that one student's question number 5 won't look the same as another question's number 5 because they've been randomized as well. Another one, which I'm not a fan of, but it was a tip that was shared, only have exam questions show one at a time and then lock the questions so they can't go back. I'm not a fan of this because I know as a student, when I took tests, sometimes a later question would make my brain remember the answer to a question before. And I think the ability to go back and forth is important. But if someone is concerned with cheating, this is a way to help with that. And then when possible, include one or more subjective questions. Don't completely rely on multiple choice. Have some short answer, have some essay. Yes, you'll have more grading to do, but it's also a more authentic way to assess their learning. So that can be helpful. Another is limit the feedback displayed to students. In our LMS of Canvas, you can choose to let students see the right answer to the quiz right after they take it. You probably don't want to do that because once they take it, then they have the right answers. They can share those with those that haven't taken the exam yet. So these are just some tips that can help if anyone is worried about collaboration on a test, and to hopefully our goal is to get our faculty to not proctor so many exams for the ease and satisfaction of students. And the very last module of the course was hybrid teaching and learning. Again, this was added on because we knew that our fall semester was going to be either completely online or at least hybrid. So we talked about some different things in hybrid, like structuring classes and activities and the student experience. The big thing in a hybrid class is to use your time wisely. So the question, can students do this on their own or alone in groups? becomes a really important question, because if that's the case, then that's the content that could be put online. If it's something that needs to be done with you or in person, then that's the content you're going to put face to face. You also want to avoid creating a course and a half, or creating course bloat is sometimes what they call it. We want to make sure that those components, the online components and the face-to-face components, really complement each other and create one cohesive course. You don't want to have an online instance and a face-to-face instance, which sometimes can happen, because that's more work for you and it's more work for the students. So really ensuring that everything fits together to create a cohesive class is important. Another important thing is the schedule and structure of a hybrid course. They can vary significantly from one class to another. It doesn't have to be a 50-50 split. Maybe you're just meeting once in the beginning, once in the middle, and once in the end. It really depends on what works best for your content and for you. So hybrid, while it gives the impression that we're split, doesn't have to be an even 50% and 50%. You can decide on your own what percentage you would like that to be. Next, we talk about the student experience. We want to make sure that students know what is expected and is required. So they've all learned face-to-face. They all had to make the transition to completely online, but a lot of them haven't done a hybrid format. That would be a completely new thing again. So it's important to let them know when you're meeting, what will be done in online versus meeting, just the things that are really required in this format so that they understand the difference. Also, I can't stress enough, communicate, communicate, communicate. That's no matter what type of class you're teaching. When we first went online in the spring, I had a faculty member not understand why her students weren't turning things in. And I found that she'd only sent one initial email telling them what to do because she didn't want to fill up their inbox. Students need to be reminded multiple times. And if you have the time to keep reminding them, do it. Because the more you remind them, the more likely you're going to get their assignments in, especially during a stressful time like a pandemic. They had many things going on other than just their classes. So they probably would have appreciated multiple reminders on their assignments. Also, incentivize doing the online work. Sometimes we put discussion boards in our classes thinking that they'll discuss and there doesn't need to be points assigned to it. They're due. Anything that you actually want them to do in an online or hybrid course, there must be points or something associated with it, or they are not going to do it. I made that mistake the first year I taught my class for faculty. What's very interesting is when faculty become students, they become students. I had a discussion board with no points and no one participated, which surprised me because I thought faculty love to talk and discuss things with each other and share. So I thought for sure they would do it. They did not. So the next year I put points on it. Lo and behold, they all participate in the discussion board. So make sure you're incentivizing the online portion of your class to ensure that they're doing it and not just focusing on the face-to-face. The course assignment is going to look like everything else we've done, really, just it's more of a hybrid blended learning chart. So we basically just ask them to think about their course learning outcomes, how they're going to assess it, will it be face-to-face or online, the learning activities they'll need, and the integration. We want them to think about, here's my online part of the course, here's my hybrid. How are they integrating? How are they coming together to create one cohesive course? That's the hardest part of creating a hybrid course. So that is the course in a nutshell. That's the overview of it. We've seen great success with those who have gone through our courses before. Again, we had a faculty that was fairly prepared when this pandemic came around because they've gone through this type of training. And we're finding that those who have gone through again are doing a great job. The really exciting part for me was that most of our faculty had been through the training, so they didn't have to do this, but a large majority of them signed up to do this class. Even if they didn't do every assignment, they interacted with the content and learned new things. So I was excited that even though they already knew, they were always willing to learn more and check in and see what was going on. One thing that I did because of this course that I think might be helpful and interesting is I surveyed the faculty who had never taught online before, and I asked them what practices that they started in their online courses will they continue when we go back to face-to-face. And these were the 3 most repeated answers. So online tests. Most faculty who teach just face-to-face on our campus, maybe not most, but a lot of them still use those paper tests. So they print them out, hand grade them. Online tests have changed their world. They have seen that it'll grade multiple choice for them. Our LMS of Canvas has a wonderful grading tool that allows you to grade papers that were turned in online by highlighting, marking, notations, everything you would need to show your student how they've done on the paper. And it's been life-changing for some of them, and they're very excited to continue online tests even when we go back to the classroom. The other is the flipped classroom idea. They're really liking the idea of students watching the lecture before they come to class so that their face-to-face time can be spent doing demonstrations, doing labs, discussions, more hands-on work. Maybe for math classes, maybe they watch the lecture at home and then they do the homework at work with the teacher where they can ask the questions. So flipped classrooms, I think, are something we're definitely going to see more of. Another thing that they're going to use more, which I think was interesting, they weren't using it, was the learning management system features for communication. Things like announcements, things like the calendar, the thing to say when things are due, rather than using up their class time making announcements multiple times or telling when assignments due multiple times, they can put it in the LMS. And this not only is that a time saver, it allows students to go back and look historically at what's been posted, when are things due, and they can look at it 24/7 and not have to wait for class for you to announce it. So those are the things that they're going to continue to use even when we're in fully face-to-face courses. And we did talk a little bit about accessibility in this course. At our university, we do not have, well, different universities in the United States have different levels of accessibility, meaning things that they require. Our university, while it doesn't require accessibility, it does as soon as a student needs it. So if a student requests accessibility needs like hearing impaired, visually impaired, we have centers that will quickly get that class ready for them so that they get that content right as the other students do. But I wanted to be sure that faculty could see that there are some things they could do on their own that could be helpful to students, even if they aren't having the needs of accessibility. For example, we looked at closed captioning for videos, accessible documents, and accessible PDFs. So when they did their introduction videos for us for the assignment, I also had them put captions on it. So what I had them do was record it, upload it into YouTube, because YouTube will create automatic captions for you, and edit it and share it with me so that they could see that they could make videos with captions. Now, it's a little time consuming until you get comfortable with it, because while YouTube's pretty accurate, when you get into more industry specific language, it sometimes can't handle that. But it's important for them to know, because captions aren't just helpful for those that are hearing impaired. They can be helpful for students with learning disabilities. They can be helpful with foreign language students. Maybe they need to read and listen to the instructor as they learn. It also takes advantage of the different learning styles of students. Some people can't just listen to you talk and learn, but reading it can give them better comprehension. So there's so many benefits to captions that it's important to consider those when you're creating your videos for your class. Also important, as was mentioned earlier, videos no more than 15 to 20 minutes. They're gonna zone out and they're gonna quit watching them. So if you do have a long lecture, try cutting it into 15 and 20 segments by topic. Maybe you're switching through topics, and that might be a better way to share those videos with students. The other was accessible documents and PDFs. This is relatively easy now. LMS, Blackboard, and Canvas, their content pages that you create within the learning management system, they are screen readable, so they're accessible. A screen reader could read them. So the more you can create within the LMS, the better it will be. Also, if you use Office, they have an accessibility checker and the ability to create accessible documents. You can also, in Word, and I believe PowerPoint, you can save as a readable PDF for your documents and then upload them into your course. Then we also talk about accessible PDFs. A lot of faculty will use articles in their classes. Today, university libraries have databases where you can link directly to those articles, which is ideal. If a student can link directly to that article, that database should already have it being accessible because those databases are ready for screen readers. But if for some reason you have one on paper and you need to scan it, there are some things to consider. And I just want to show a couple of examples that we share with our faculty. If a scan looks like this, the OCR, or optical recognition software, isn't going to be able to read the characters and make this readable by a screen reader. Why? Because we have, you can see the edge of the book, the page is really dirty. The technology isn't going to be able to pick this up. So this could never be a readable PDF. It wouldn't be possible. So if you are going to use an article and you are going to scan it, make sure that you haven't highlighted it. Make sure you haven't written in the margins. It needs to be very clean, just like this. This could be scanned and easily read by OCR and create an accessible PDF. So these are the little things that faculty can do as they're creating their course, as they're putting new content in, to ensure that at least some of their content is already readable by a screen reader. And so we're going to end tonight on some tips and tricks on being a better online instructor. I hope that you've already gotten some, but here's a few that we try to instill into our faculty. Be present and be yourself. We talked about instructor presence. I can't stress it enough. Be present in your course. Do things like introduction videos or weekly videos that talk about the assignments that are due. Also, don't over edit your videos. In real life, we stumble over our words. I've done it multiple times tonight. So if you edit a video to sound perfect, it almost makes you not human, because we don't generally speak perfectly all the time. Also, if you're doing a demonstration or a lab and recording, don't edit that. Oh, don't over edit that. Keep your mistakes in there. It's important for students to see how you recovered, how you troubleshooted the problem, and how you're not perfect either. And so even the experts sometimes make mistakes, and that can make them feel more comfortable and be able to tackle that learning much easier. And then put yourself in your shoes. I said before, if you have the opportunity to take an online course, take one, because putting yourself in the role of the student is the best way to see what's happening for them on the other side of that learning management system. Also, maybe have someone evaluate your online course. If you don't have an instructional designer available to you, have a trusted colleague look at it, and have them look at it through a student view and see if it makes sense to them. Can they find the content they need? Would they understand what to do if they got into your course? Would they know where to start? Then, if possible, it's hard to do if you're doing papers, but do your own assignments, do your tests. Do them and see if you can do them. One, just to make sure the technology is working right and that the questions are readable and things like that. But also just to see if that knowledge is reasonable. Have you given them a reasonable assessment? It can help you to put yourself in their shoes as they take their assignments as well. And that's important to being a great online instructor. And that is all I have this evening. Are there any questions? Or how would I know if there's questions?
Ma'am, Lakshmi ma'am will be moderating, madam. She'll be informing about the questions so that you can answer them.
Thank you very much, Ms. Shapai.
Are there any?
Really, you have discussed the need of the hour at length. We, the teachers, have adopted to teach online mode through online mode, but we had many confusions regarding the assessment. But after attending this session, most of our doubts have been cleared how to assess. Here I have got two questions for your answer. Mr. Devraj Sambusamy is asking, can you suggest any tools and apps for content designing?
For what kind of designing?
Any subject content, I think.
Subject content designing?
Yes.
There's a lot of ready-made content out there that you might just want to look for. There's some universities in the United States, Harvard, MIT, who actually put their online courses online for anyone to see. And that might give you an idea as you look through their subjects, how they're laying it out, and if that would work for you. So I would suggest seeing what you can find that other universities have done and look at that layout and see if you feel like that would work for your subject and how you want to teach your course. But in the end, maybe use a course design checklist, see if that fits into your area. But in the end, it's how you want to teach your course and what you think is going to be best for your students. But what's key is organization, making sure that things are easy to find and easy to navigate.
Thank you, madam. So another question, course mapping and course organization, are they similar to each other?
They are. It's, you can use those terms interchangeably. Absolutely. Course mapping is kind of a fancier name, but course organization, it is all the same. And it's just the idea of mapping out that course and organizing it and having it all set up on paper, even if it's just in an outline, so that when you go into the learning management system, you're just putting in content and just worrying about the technology and not the content and how you're going to organize it.
Thank you. Another question from Raghuram. What about copyrights when we use scanned material? Do we have to get Creative Commons license, etc.?
If you find things that you want to use, generally you're going to see if there's a Creative Commons license. Also, if you're on a web page, if you go down to the very bottom, generally, if you click like about, or there'll be a link there that will tell you what their usage rights are. And they'll tell you if you can use it. If all else fails, what I do when I'm not sure is I contact that individual. I've never been told no. So if I find something that I like, especially from another institution, we're all colleagues, and generally it just ask and they'll let you use it. But you do have to be careful with that. And I'm not sure in India how it works, but in America, we do have different copyrights. Like we have the Teach Act, which gives you a little more leniency on using materials as long as it's for education and you are not getting paid or receiving funds for using that information.
Interesting. Venkat Reddy is curious to know, is this system just now you discussed is implemented in all institutions in America?
I can't say that all are, but most, because of the pandemic, did create something similar to this online course design institute, because we all had to train a whole lot of faculty really quickly. And so even we've had ours on our campus for like 8 years now. I don't know that all universities have had theirs that long, but due to this current situation, many universities in America have this kind of layout for faculty training right now.
Okay. So Miss Padmavati is trying to ask to have some more tools for assessment. Do we have, other than you have mentioned, do we have any more tools for assessment?
Tools for assessment. The big thing that we look at, we're very big on using rubrics if possible, which those are also easily found on the internet. You can find some and adapt them to how you want them to be. Rubrics are great because it lays out exactly what students should be doing. We're very big on authentic assessment as well. So discussion boards are sometimes used as assessment, having them discuss and seeing if they really understand the content. And then just your essays, your papers. But then, anything we can do hands-on is ideal too, but sometimes that's harder and online. We have had some people do labs and have the students do the labs, like for instance, chemistry with some household things, safe labs with household things, and they would record themselves. So that kind of assessment can be done too. You can use Zoom to have them record their speeches, record presentations, or record them doing hands-on activities. And that can be a great way to assess.
Okay, nice to know, madam. And one more question from Madam Padmavati. Is there any assessment tools available for creative writing?
For creative writing, assessment tools generally I'm familiar with our faculty do, and you did have one of our faculty speak, I believe, yesterday, Dr. Patricia Ackerman. And generally, it just depends on the area of which they're writing. I know we have some where they have to write a proposal of something they want to change on campus. And they have to interview, meet with people, and really go through the process of creating a proposal. And while it's not, it is creative in that they have to come up with why this is important and can really convince someone that that is what we should do. So that's one thing that they do in our campus. And then again, I can't stress enough to not reinvent the wheel. Other universities are doing things and they're generally more than willing to share. So even just looking up different universities that you might admire and think do a great job and see what they're doing, or contact their faculty and see what how they're assessing things.
Thank you. Is there any difference between blended and hybrid model of teaching?
There is not. Those terms in the United States anyway, at this point, are used interchangeably. At one point, hybrid meant 50% online, 50% face-to-face, and blended was less. So you'd be 20% online, 80% face-to-face. But at this point, those lines have really been blurred, and we use those terms interchangeably.
Okay, another interesting question here. While teaching a foreign language, can you give some inputs so that to improve listening and speaking skills online? Is there any such assessment?
That's where I know that our instructors are using Zoom in that way, right? So they can record themselves, or if you have videos where they speak and speak back, they can record themselves doing it and you can view it and do the assessment. Or maybe you can even have different meeting times with your students that work for them and you handle it there. Zoom's a great tool to do a lot of different things, especially for foreign language.
Okay, another question. How can we assess social aspects of a learner?
How can we assess social aspects of a learner? That's a very good question. Are we speaking as in an assignment of social aspects, or assessing them as a learner in their personal life? Can I have more specifics?
Okay. Okay, any more questions? Okay, Dr. G. Vishnumurthy sir is trying to ask you, for content, can we make use of any open educational resources?
Can you ask that one more time?
For content use of open educational resources.
Yeah, there's a lot of great educational resources. Our university actually is working hard to get faculty to use open textbooks, whether they create their own, or we have, there's a company called OpenStax that has many different free open educational resource textbooks for many different areas to help with costs. Also, you know, there's different things online. There's Khan Academy, which has a lot of different videos. I can send out the link or I can give it to the people, but we found a lot of different resources that could be used for labs. So science labs, language labs, things like that. It's not in my presentation, but I'd be happy to send that link out. They're all open resource and they're very helpful when you're creating an online course.
Okay, thank you, madam. And one more question from Rahman. Can you suggest any tool for assessing reading skill?
I've always been in higher education and we don't have a lot of foreign language on our campus. So honestly, I haven't had a lot of experience with having to assess reading. So I don't have a smart answer for that. I apologize.
Okay. Any more questions? Okay, thank you very much, madam. You have patiently answered all the questions and most of our doubts have been clarified. Now it's the time to propose vote of thanks. Before that, I would like to invite Dr. Anantalakshmi, head of the department, for concluding remarks of the session.
Thank you, Dr. Lakshmi. Dr. Lisa, the session was handled very interesting, and all the topics handled by you are very thought-provoking. In India, in healthcare environment, when for the students, language acquisition is the biggest point because they do not have a native language. and from taking the engineers from that stage to further stage of developing the ease with the language. That is the main challenge for that. And the inputs given by you about the student perspective of online assessment and also the different kinds of rubrics and all these are really useful. Hope so we will be adapting all those things. And I hope so all the participants have enjoyed. And all the questions asked and the response given by you are also very relevant and really a good knowledge share we had this morning. Thank you.
Thank you, madam. Before I hand over to Mr. Sunil, I would like to inform the audience the next session is going to begin at 1:30 and the link will be shared by 1:15 p.m. and go through your chat box for the feedback link, and for the morning session you have to submit it within the time mentioned. Thank you very much. Now over to Mr. Sunil to propose vote of thanks.
Thank you, Dr. Lakshmi Ramana Madam. Respected and our most distinguished chief guest of the day, respected and valuable speaker of the session, our beloved HOD and honorable participants. I, Mr. Sunil Kumar, Assistant Professor of English, Anurag University, deemed it a great honor to propose a word of thanks to all who have helped us in making this webinar such a resounding success. Firstly, I would like to thank our distinguished speaker, Professor Lisha Sapi, for accepting our invitation and making informative and thought-provoking presentation on online course syllabus, course goals, and gave us valuable insights about learning objectives. Especially, madam, your making points about tools for online teaching and learning was extraordinarily in this pandemic time. Today, I can say it was a very practical-oriented session. Thank you, ma'am, for your extraordinary session. I must mention a deep sense of appreciation to Professor Sada Sameen Fatma Madam, Registrar Anurag University, for gracing today's session in her busy schedule. Thank you, ma'am, for your very interesting and valuable address. Also, would like to extend my special thanks to Professor Vijay Kumar sir, Dean Research and Development Anurag University, for gracing the occasion and giving us a wonderful and thought-provoking address regarding the importance of English in research area. Thank you, sir, for your wonderful address. We would also like to thank our beloved HOD and convener of the two-day international webinar, Dr. G.V.S. Anantalakshmi ma'am, who initiated and making it a very grand success with her continuous support and guidance. Thank you, ma'am, for your commitment. I'm very grateful to Dr. Mahipati Srinivasarao, co-coordinator and event coordinator for his two-day international webinar, for his encouragement and constant support throughout. Would also appreciate all the enthusiastic participants throughout the world for making this time to attend our international webinar and make it a grand success. As no program can become successful with a single person, so I extremely extend my very big thanks to each and everyone in our English department of Anurag University for their constant support whenever we need. I also extend my thanks to the technical team of English department Anurag University, Padini Madam and Madhavi Madam, for their quick response and the tech support. Thank you once again, and thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Sunil. And let us meet at 1:15. The session starts at 1:30. Till then, have a great lunch and come back for another Power Fact session at 1:30. Thank you.